So welcome to Lightning Talks. Who's come to Lightning Talks either this year or last year? Okay, is there anyone who's never come? Okay, so we have two types of Lightning Talks. We have Ignite style that have auto-advancing slides. We have Classic style where presenters control their own slides. For the Ignite style, when the shadowy stop sign comes up, that means it's your last slide. When the bright one comes up, it means you need to be done and get off the stage. And you definitely can't talk past the bright stop sign. The last talk is a Classic style. So I will have a timer and stand over here for the speaker to see. I'll wave my hands, Fernando, to tell you when you have a minute or 2 minutes left. And at 5 minutes, I'll be blowing a whistle or making a loud noise, and I have to stop.
Okay, thank you. Hello, everyone. My name is Craig Tan. I'm a technical account manager in Alfresco, APAC. We are based in Sydney. Apart from my day-to-day activity with the Premier accounts, I've also been helping out with the Records Management 2.1 development and translating Alfresco into simplified Chinese. For the next 5 minutes, I will be talking about some high-level whys and how we should write a custom subsystem in Alfresco. So let's get started. So what is a subsystem? A subsystem is a configurable module that's responsible for a subpart of Alfresco's functionality. It is a Spring-based concept, so it does not require coding to create a subsystem. Each subsystem has a category and a type. A category name is a broad description of your subsystem. For example, the search subsystem in Alfresco. A type is a particular flavor of implementation for that category. For example, Lucene and Solar. Now, surprisingly or not, Alfresco has got its own subsystems too. Now, since version 3.2, many of its core functionality has been modularized into subsystems, and here are some of the examples displayed here. So why should I write my own custom subsystem? Well, there are quite a few benefits to it, and given the restriction, I'll just show you a few really good ones. First of all, a subsystem clearly separates your product or custom code from Alfresco or from another subsystem at runtime. So you don't have to worry about contention issues like the bin name uniqueness in Spring, and it's purely configured by Spring. This is a really good advantage. You can stop, start, and configure your subsystem on the fly without having to restart Alfresco. And if you have Alfresco Enterprise Edition, you can do this via the GMX console by just clicking on the button on and off. You can do hot swappings with in and out with an alternative implementation of another subsystem under the same category, subsystem categories, for example, like Lucene and Solar, without having to restart Alfresco again. You can do chaining, or what I said, picking and choosing the right combination of subsystems for your particular use case. So, for example, if you got 50 subsystems, you don't have to run all 50 of them. You can just pick the ones for your own requirement. So, how do I write a custom subsystem? There's a subsystem there. There are three really simple steps, and it's all done by configuration. The first step, obviously, you need to have a product or some custom code that does something with Alfresco or for Alfresco. Then you need to package your code up in the standard Alfresco module package or the AMP file. Then you need to configure your product by Spring, as you would normally do. With one exception, though, is you need to put all your Spring files and properties files under this spatial path, Alfresco subsystem / category / type. So Alfresco will categorize your subsystem accordingly. Now, the last step is you have to mount your subsystem with Alfresco, so Alfresco knows the existence of your subsystem. And in order to do that, you have to mount using the Spring class child application context factory. Now, here is an example. I've got a subsystem with a category called product, or you can call my product, a type name product A, and I'm telling Alfresco to automatically start my subsystem at Bootstrap. And that's it. And automatically, my subsystem appears in the J console. What you're looking at here is not Alfresco's subsystem, but my subsystem product A and product B. And of course, you can do configuration and start and stop. Now, there are 3 different variations to it. The first one is the one I've just mentioned. You need to mount for each of your subsystem using this child application context factory so that Alfresco knows about your subsystem and you can do stop and start via the JConsole. If you want to do hot swapping, this is the additional mounting you need to do on top of the previous one, where you need to pass in one single parameter telling Alfresco the subsystem instance to start by default, and you can change it afterwards. The third one is if you want to do chaining. You need to do this on top of the previous ones, once again passing in one parameter containing a list of subsystems you want to start at Bootstrap in that particular order. So here is an example of how to mount using the default child application context manager. You pass in that parameter in your Alfresco global.property in that particular order that you want the system to start up, and automatically it appears in the JConsole with that parameter passed in. And of course, you can swap the order on the fly. You will be reflected in the log, and you will get started, stopped based on the order that you swapped. So it is pretty, basic and simple. Now, by default, under normal circumstances, a Spring parent context cannot see child context. This is useless for Alfresco if you can't see your subsystem. To get around it, we've provided a proxy where you can expose your child context to the parent. Now, there are sample code available to download at the Summit website that covers all 3 examples I've mentioned, and it's actually exposed to the Alfresco's rules engine, so you can see how Alfresco uses the subsystems. Thank you.
Do you hear me? Yeah, great. Hello, everyone. My name is Alexey Ermakov, and I am one of the core developers of AlfFS, the Alfresco-based product that we are building. And today I would like to talk to you about the way one tests Alfresco extensions. As far as I know, at the moment, there is no best practices for testing defined by vendors, so everyone does it the way he likes. So that's why we decided to create our own simple testing framework. So basically, we're not interested in writing classic unit tests because they allow you to test only limited number of things. We're interested in testing REST APIs, custom UIs, and so on with complex behavioral tests. So you might want to ask me a question: why do you need to reinvent the wheel? Because there is plenty of projects that allow you to do things like that. So the answer is quite simple, because we can. Talking seriously, that's because we don't want to write unit tests, and we don't want to use Java too. So the idea behind is to use easy-to-learn Python as the main scripting language. As the core testing framework, we use processes that is very similar to jUnit and TestNG both, and we use a Selenium engine to emulate browsers. And okay, now let's see the framework. It allows you to call REST APIs through the Python wrappers, and moreover, it defines few standard APIs. So here's the example. We are using people services exposed to the Python through the REST APIs. As you can see, it's completely transparent. There is nothing to do with HTTP communication here. In case you think standard APIs are not enough for you, it's okay to extend the list of available APIs. Just grab the array.json from the URL, and the wrapper object will do the rest of the job for you. Okay, now the most interesting part, UI testing. For the UI test, framework brings you predefined classes and decorators to run tests only for specific browsers. And the most interesting part is the way framework allows you to interact with share forms, mostly the way you do it in browser. Okay, let's see example again. Okay, by default, tests will be run against all the browsers that you have available on your system. But in case you don't like it, you're able to define a test with decorator, and your test will be run only for browsers that are explicitly configured for it. Now let's take a look at the more complex example. We have a dashlet we want to test. Dashlet shows the list of workflows that a user is permitted to launch. When you click the link, workflow start form shows up. This is the form. We have two mandatory fields to be filled before form may be submitted. One is the standard text one. Other one is the form with the field with the custom control that shows a pop-up form. First thing we need is to implement the dashlet in our code. With the Selenium, it's quite easy. We just use CSS selector to find a base element, and after it, we can implement other logic that dashlet needs. I will skip the details on dashlet implementation and just show you the way we use it in tests. So here we go. We just log in the share, open the dashboard, locate the dashlet. After we located the dashlet, we are able to use it. We just go through all available workflows and click the link to launch them. And after that, we should see the pop-up form. Here is the snippet of the form configuration. As I said before, we're interested in two fields, one standard text one and other with a custom control. Okay, here's the way we configure the form in Python. We do it mostly the same way we do it in share config. We define workflow ID and the list of fields to be used during the tests. After that, we're using implemented APIs to interact with the form for Python. We set in two fields, one by simply setting the text value, other by using APIs to interact with the form. And as you can see, there is nothing special to create a complex test, but you can easily achieve this target by just simply combining described capabilities. So repository tests, UI tests, and the bindings. Now I'm going to say a few words on the roadmap. We are planning to continue project development by providing more predefined controls, more wrappers for standard APIs, and of course improving framework code. So if you're interested, don't hesitate to join us. Here's the links. Thank you for your attention.
How's that? Is that coming through? So I'm waiting for my slides. I am joint CTO at Ixxus. We're a global platinum partner headquartered in London and with offices in the US. And today I'm going to talk about DevOps. And we're going to look at some of the problems first before we look at some of the processes and tools. It's a long wait. So who likes to gamble? Okay, and some people gamble for fun, but why gamble when it's your work? Stop taking risks with things that you can control in a better way. Development is hard. Development is painful. Many projects over years I used to hear people saying, "Well, it works on my machine." That's not responsible. There's a great joke that every operating system has a place. Mac for building web apps, Linux for running web apps, and Windows for testing IE. An infrastructure is typically complex and painful. You have many different patches that you require or packages to configure and set up, cables, power. It's painful. And this is a piece of Alfresco code. That doesn't, when developers do that, that doesn't help your operations team. There's no context. What's gone wrong, why, and who was affected by it. And all of these things are productivity killers. You need that consistency to enable predictability in development. So let's look at how we can improve this. In the past, with typically waterfall, there was this great over-the-fence model. So, you know, here's my shiny web application. Well, hold it, you can't run that on my tin. You haven't passed, you know, you haven't given us an operations manual or problem determination tree. But where we're moving to now is more of combined strength. So it's one team fighting the same fire, or hopefully not having fires to fight at all, by that combined strength and working together. And in terms of process, you know, the steps that we typically see are moving towards that rapid feedback, and that's something that's key in agile development, but then moving to more frequent releases or even into potentially continuous delivery, but then not resting on your laurels and improving all the time and not keeping your game static. And there are different ways of doing this. So migrations is an important part, and Alfresco has this with the patch service. You know, treat the database as code, keep it version controlled, treat your infrastructure as code, and we'll visit that again. And Vagrant is a way of addressing some of this for your development environments, getting consistency. It's a simple way of having virtual environments that are the same. You know, there's 3 commands, and you typically start with a standard box, and you know, Vagrant box.es has a list of them, but then you'll typically customize it and either package your own or use a tool like Packer to do it for you. And you can configure your VMs with additional memory, and there's a shared folder between the host and the guest. And Vagrant also supports provisioning, so you can set up your VMs in a consistent way, and Chef and Puppet and also Ansible as well as shell scripts can be used. And we'll have a look at Puppet now. So Puppet is a configuration management tool, and it gives you a model-driven infrastructure. So you define the different server templates, roles, and have reusable configurations. And again, it's all nice open source. And it helps to ensure this consistency. So you've modeled at the top. You define what you want it to be. You can simulate what changes need to be applied to an environment, and then you can enforce it. So if you've got configuration drift, Puppet can bring it back in line. And this is kind of a sample Alfresco class for a way of sort of running an enterprise installer and saying that it needs a MySQL database with an Alfresco schema in it. And the next thing we're going to look at is Jenkins. Now, a lot of developers are familiar with this as a continuous integration tool, but it's also good at doing repeated jobs. So this can be used for test orchestration or release management. And it's an easy-to-use application. It's an executable WAR file, or you can drop that WAR file in a container. There's an admin GUI, so you can install lots of different plugins. And some of those include things like tracking trends, so you can see whether things are getting better or worse. And in this case, you know, there was lots of violations, loads of things wrong with that code, but then someone did a bit of a tidy up and generally improved the quality of that code base. And lastly, you know, Jenkins can do post-build actions, and these can be used for deploying, say, a WAR file into a container using the cargo plugin, or shipping it over different protocols, and also triggering custom scripts. So if you need to put it somewhere, then it can do it for you. So the kind of takeaway message is that there are tools that can help straighten it out. So, you know, Vagrant on the development environment, Puppet for consistent configuration management across development and production, and then Jenkins for deployment. And it was a win. So a bit about me and some reference for you. Thank you.
Okay, so hi, my name is Niklas Ekman. I'm working as a Alfresco consultant for a Nordic-based open source consult company called Redpill Linpro. Today I'm going to talk to you about a product called pdfaPilot. It's a converter software and its integration with Alfresco. pdfaPilot comes from a company called Callas. Some background. If you want to do long-time archiving, you should definitely use PDFA because it's the only one which supports long-time archiving, and it's an ISO standard. Also, In Sweden, for example, there is a national archive called Riksarkivet. And according to them, you should use pdfaPilot for long-term archiving. It's not by law, but it's by advice. And in Norway, there is an archiving standard called NOARC 5. And also in that one, if you want to do long-time archiving of digital documents, you should definitely use pdfaPilot. That is in regulation. Today in vanilla Alfresco, there is no out-of-the-box support for creating pdfaPs with the standard configuration of Alfresco. There is a possibility to have rudimentary pdfaPilot 1a support. It uses OpenOffice, LibreOffice. You do need to do some Alfresco hacking. And it's only for document formats which can be opened by OpenOffice and LibreOffice. There is no PDF to pdfaPilot, which you do need because there is a lot of people uploading PDFs, so you definitely need to have some PDF to pdfaPilot. There is also currently no good MS Office to pdfaPilot to PDF with vanilla Alfresco. It uses OpenOffice, which in some cases creates not good previews of PDFs. What we do need is we need all current pdfaPilot variants, and there's a lot of them. We do need PDF to pdfaPilot, that's a must. We want to have good MS Office to pdfaPilot and PDF. And here's where pdfaPilot comes in. It's a very good software for converting documents to PDF and pdfaPilot. The pros are, it supports all current pdfaPilot variants. It's easy to integrate. It's included in Adobe Acrobat, meaning that Callas has licensed their software to Adobe, and it uses native OpenOffice and MS Office, including Visio and Publisher. The cons are pricing. I mean, it's proprietary, so it costs some money. Not overly expensive, but still it's not open source. Stability could be an issue in some cases, I have myself realized. And now to Callas pdfaPilot in Alfresco. It's implemented as an Alfresco subsystem, which means that you can switch it on and off. You can exchange it for something else. It integrates with the pdfaPilot's command line binary, so it's very easy to do integration stuff with. It uses a pdfaPilot specific setup called dispatcher and satellite, which is some kind of SOAP web service thing, which you can call very easily. This is an example of how a setup can look like. We have two Alfresco backends, each with a binary on it. They speak with a load balancer, and you have the pdfaPilot dispatcher behind. Each of them has one or more satellites. This makes for good failover and also for performance scaling. You can add as many satellites as you like to, so you can scale out very, very easily. And also dispatchers, of course. The alternatives, you have the Alfresco transformation server, which is also a very good product. It cannot, for the moment, do pdfaPilot, though, and even if it could, it relies on Microsoft Office, and that only do pdfaPilot 1b, I think. There is GhostScript hacking. I've tried to do this. It's open source, very good. GhostScript is an awesome product. It's very established. Doesn't create valid pdfaPilot, though, so this is not really an option. And there are other alternatives, other conversion engines on the market. All these are very, very good. But I picked pdfaPilot because it's very solid. There are currently no good open source options, so that is not good. So for the future, I want to implement the module as an OSGI module instead, because I think this one by Lawrence Friedel is awesome. It's a very good product. And I want to switch to the SDK or plain binary instead of their own thing. I want to have more options, and I want to have the ability for Alfresco Share to analyze existing PDFs and see if they are valid. And I want to have an action to pre-flight documents to pdfaPilot directly from Share. And if you want to read about the thing, you can share it on GitHub stuff. So, thank you.
So, does it work? Yeah. Hello everyone. My name is Svensson. I'm working for Redpill Linpro, a company in Sweden, which has a software or Alfresco integration consultant. Today I'm going to talk about a customization that we made to Alfresco Share, which makes the integration between LibreOffice and Alfresco Share a bit easier. I hope that you watched Cedric Bostonat's talk yesterday regarding the CMIs supporting LibreOffice. It was really interesting. So, what we were looking for is an open source alternative to MS Office. Some of our clients want this, and the only real alternative is LibreOffice. Our idea was to simplify the usage for normal users, so you won't need any technical knowledge on when you want to edit your documents in LibreOffice. You want it to work as the edit online for MS Office, basically. The few challenges that we faced was how to launch LibreOffice, how to achieve OS independence, how to also achieve browser independence. So as for launching LibreOffice, it's the implementation that the LibreOffice gang has made allows for using parameters to the LibreOffice binary to point to even CMIS files. So that's what we're using to achieve that. As for OS independence, we support Linux, tested with Ubuntu right now, Mac OS X, and Windows. The only difference in these three OSs is the path to the binary of LibreOffice when you launch it. As for browser independence, there are a lot of browsers, of course. We have tested this with Firefox, Chrome, and Internet Explorer. There are a few different approaches that you could take. As for Firefox, we have made a plugin, Firefox plugin, which helps launching LibreOffice and pointing to the file in Alfresco that you want to open. For the other browsers, currently we use a Java applet, the optimal idea would be to use a plugin instead, but that's something that will come. This module is licensed as LGPL3 and available on GitHub. It's a Maven build built based on the Maven SDK and consists of a few modules to achieve this. As for deployment, it's pretty easy. You configure your build, adding certificates and stuff. You create the AMP, install the AMP, and then you configure your share. Activating the module is pretty easy as well. You use the module deployment tool in Share, and you just activate it. And when you do, this option to edit online will appear for all users. As you can see here, a new option appears in both the document library and the document details page, which says edit in LibreOffice. It's placed next to the edit offline and edit online options. When you click it, we use JavaScript to detect browsers. If you use Firefox, it will detect see if you have a plugin for this. If not, you will be prompted to install it. It also manages versioning on the plugins, so that if you upgrade the server-side part of this module, the client will be prompted to update the module if necessary. If you choose not to use the plugin for Firefox, it will fall back to Java applet, and that's also the case for Google Chrome and Internet Explorer. When you use the Java applet has some issues. There are security issues regarding Java lately, so it's very dependent on the version of Java that you run. Basically, when you use the Java applet, a pop-up is opened, and which contains the Java applet. This can't be embedded in the same page. Not yet, anyway. And then after the Java applet has been allowed to run, or you use the plugin, LibreOffice is launched using a command line. After that, it's all LibreOffice, and you will be prompted for a username and password, which is your Alfresco username and password. You can save the password as well if you want to not get prompted in the future. And then after that, when you're in LibreOffice, it's only LibreOffice. It has nothing to do with our customization anymore. You can edit documents. When you save, it saves back to Alfresco. You can check out documents, check in documents, add versioning comments, select if you want a major or minor version, and everything you save and check in will stay in Alfresco. This allows for deploying LibreOffice in Alfresco environments at different customers and makes it transparent for the users. It's good that you can use an open source Office suite instead of MS Office. So what do we have planned for the future? Well, we would like plugins for Google Chrome and Internet Explorer, so we can get rid of the Java applet due to the security stuff with Java. If you want to know more, look at the links here. The link to the GitHub project. You can follow me on Twitter to get updates when the module is updated. And please, if you can, contribute. We need some help with internationalization and browser plugins. Thank you.
Okay, hello. So first of all, I would like to thank Richard for accepting this idea of presenting, wow, that's fantastic, stories from Alfresco. So my name is Boriss Mejias. I'm a Carbon-based ape descendant, which works at Xenit solution, but I'm also an Alfresco community member. And this is what I think is really good about Alfresco, the community. And I hang out a lot in the IRC channel. And on the IRC channel, I also ask a lot of technical questions. And one of the questions that I was asking is about good practices. And this is how this started. So I was asking, what about removing the admin account to prevent this brute force attack to get the password? And a guy who unfortunately couldn't come here, he said, oh, that's a really good idea. And I did it, and it was working perfectly until I gave some admin privilege to my boss, and he went there and started to clean up the system and remove the Alfresco administrator groups. It was a little bit painful to fix that, but he got it right. But his boss went on, and he said, we have to minimize all the folders. And he deleted the data dictionary. Things were not working right, of course. And he says, after 2 months, I would have expected that you know how to configure this system you're proposing. So it wasn't that good story, but this is how it started. So we say, let's carry on. And if you hang out on Alfresco IRC channel, you have people like Loftus who will say, oh, this is the bug of the day that I have discovered. If you create a folder called adverts in your data library on your site, you will not be able to browse and not be able to browse any of the subdirectories. This is actually not a bug in Alfresco. He just has a plugin in his browser to prevent advertisement. So if you come with a user that says, I cannot browse my adverts file, it's because of this probably. So carry on with sites. We have one guy who was cleaning up his site, and once he created a site for somebody else called Tenetamba. And then he says, I don't remember this site, but he was the only site manager of it. And he decided, instead of delete it, leave it. So I said, I leave. Because he was using Alfresco 3.4, you created an orphan site. Nobody could manage this site anymore, and even the Alfresco administrator could take over. So you couldn't even delete it. Of course, this is, well, that's fixed in Alfresco.4, so let's upgrade to Alfresco.4. When we were in 4.0.1, this was really a pain. This upgrade path didn't really work. We have to go always through 3.4, and once we managed to do it, it's say, okay, now we got an Alfresco 4 working. Let's go and check what is the system about. And we got this message, all your working copies are belong to us. Because it was a new system for doing working copies, and nothing was working anymore. You have to fix them in the database manually. So this is what we think about things done funky in Alfresco, but they can think also that you are doing things funky. So to prevent this, what the funky stories from the guys, follow the advices from Peter Monk. So he will tell you, when you do extensions, use JavaScript instead of Java, because if you not, you're the bad guy. So he will also tell you, even if your Alfresco trainer will tell you, just use the node service with the lowercase because it's much faster, it's not true, it's a myth. So don't do that. And also use APIs instead of protocols. So about APIs, there's a famous guy who is one of the main architects of Semis. He got a really surprised when he saw his kids programming this way with a curly braces after the line. He said, are you really programming like this? And then his son was like, he was surprised, but this is in the Alfresco coding standards. You are from Alfresco. Well, this is also something that you should know. Now let's go for community and enterprise. Which version of Alfresco is this one? It says Alfresco community version Alfresco Enterprise 4.1.2. This happens when you try do a trial version of Alfresco Enterprise and you run out of the 30 days. And then you don't see why the system is not working. But anyway, Alfresco is not the only one confusing community and enterprise. Also people who is part of the community, which is very good. But if you're part of the just using Alfresco community, you're not a customer. So if you're not a customer, don't go to a guy who works in Alfresco and tell him, hey, we're a huge customer. We have this really crucial problem. Why haven't you fixed it? So you are part of the community, use the support from the community. And if he would have been a guy from the Alfresco Enterprise, this summer he would have had this nice surprise with a new Alfresco support where all the tickets were gone. You couldn't see any ticket at all. You couldn't even create a ticket to say that this is not working. So this is actually a successful story because we didn't submit any ticket in 1 month. So it's great. So this was a kind of a funky story from being an enterprise. So it's also good to be a community. It's a difference between being customer or not. Now, how to ask for help. This story comes from the PHP API project, which I didn't know that existed. But somebody just came and said, I need this PHP API to complete my job. So it's out of date. Can you update it for me? This is not a good way of asking for help. So Tony de la Fuente, which is the godfather of our community, he told me, one guy, he also got this, what the funky message. He got this message from a guy from Argentina with a good technical question and logs, and he says, cheers from Argentina, we gave you Messi and Di Stefano, now please give me a hand on this. He helped him because he likes Cholo Simeone, which is the coach of Atletico Madrid and is also from Argentina. So if you want to know more about these stories, hang out on the IRC channel, go to the forums, check the office hours, and talk to the people in the Alfresco Summit. So come to the next summit as well. Thank you very much.
Hello. So my name is Lothar Märkle. I'm CTO from ECM4U, a company which delivers professional services for Alfresco. We've doing this now for, well, since version 1 something. And our services are just professional services, or our offer are professional services. We create modules, and we also run the ECM market, but this is on the next slide, just a minute. Yeah, I'll be on the 30 seconds. Okay, so yeah, the ECM market is an offer for Alfresco modules. It's an App Store-like thing where you can provide. Okay, so my talk is about the AlfFS, which is a Fuse file system for Alfresco. This is a Linux topic, and with Fuse is an abbreviation for a user space file system. So this is the way how it works in Linux. You have user space, which is the stuff where all your applications work, and this is the kernel, and the file system call goes to the kernel and goes back to the file system modules like X, NFS, and there you have the Fuse file systems all implemented in user space. This is a benefit because this is more stable. And the AlfFS is one of such file systems which allows you to mount Alfresco just the same way like WebDAV or CIFS, but it uses the Fuse infrastructure of Linux. Okay, so let's see it here again. You do a ls of your mount point, it goes to the kernel, goes to Fuse, and back to Alfresco. So why to do that? Because there is WebDAV and the other protocols. Well, Linux is a great platform, and to take it nearer to the Linux desktop, you need a Fuse file system, of course, and you can do some special stuff I can show you. On this project, what do you need to do it? You need to come back to Kernighan and Ritchie. This little old book to do some C stuff, if you remember this. On the Alfresco side, you have to provide a REST API where you can do HTTP calls. For example, you map simple, create, truncate, and write calls. You map it to special, simple, really simple REST API here. And this is just implemented with Java, web scripts in a standard way. And here's a short video to show you how it works. Okay, this is a mount call. As you can do, you provide username, and you mount something somewhere. I mounted company home to my directory mount alf, and you can see just a simple ls and shows you the root contents of the company home. Now, this is how to work with files. Obviously, it's just same thing as any other file system locally. You can work on your Nautilus or whatever file browser you use. And what is already implemented is you can just copy out in and do usual file level stuff. Okay, and now here some photos. Go back to Alfresco. Little reload, yeah. There's the new created folder with all the pictures. I just uploaded. Okay, next, what about metadata? This is a new thing for file systems in a sense that it's not provided on WebDAV or CIFS, but Linux supports the extended attributes. So, and all metadata is mapped to those extended attributes in the Linux file system. So you can see here, all these EXIF data is extracted from the photos, like resolution, and what my showcase is now the description. There was no description yet of this photo. So let's navigate to this picture. Here's the Froggle font, and this is a rather unknown standard file system call on Linux, but it shows you all kind of metadata of this file here, and all the aspects are just mapped as well as all other standard string properties, or here like this resolution thing, for example. Okay, and it also goes the other way around, just set metadata using this standard calls. Oh, the video was cut off from Richard. Okay. So it supports HTTP, so it's very firewall friendly. You can work with there anywhere. Compared to WebDAV, it's a little bit more lightweight. Yeah, there are also some improvements coded, like the files are locally cached, for example, and files are uploaded when you last closed them, so there's no ongoing uploads when you just hit the save button. Also, some special SSL stuff that needs to be done when you use libcurl on the C level. Yeah, Fuse itself is a problem with I/O throughput, I would say. They limit it currently, but that's a kernel issue and will be solved in future releases. So thank you.
So, yeah, next slide, previous slide. There's,
Hi, I am Fernando González. Yes? And I work in Ricoh company, with Ricoh Spain company. There are many answers about the possibilities of indexing audio files. Many companies have a lot of audio and video. It's necessary to search audio files for text words. Many important talks have to be transcriber audio indexing, and audio indexing promotes efficiency in the EA and digital asset management. Alfresco audio transcriber is a module of Alfresco created in Java for audio transcription with Sphinx 4, developed by Carnegie Mellon University. But what is Sphinx 4? Sphinx 4 describes a group of speech recognition systems developed at Carnegie Mellon University. This includes a series of speech recognizers, Sphinx 4 to 4, and an acoustic model trainer, Sphinx Train. The elements of Sphinx 4 is two. model language and one models and acoustic models. And language model include grammars and dictionaries in files, and acoustic models is are wave modulation algorithms for human speech recognition, and this software use a hidden Markov model for algorithms. Well, the Alfresco Java action works as follows. Audio transcription from direct execution of Java action for the repository. Use control rules for the repository, and using user interface action for Alfresco share. And use Alfresco schedule setting up Alfresco schedule context file. Yes, there are the support features, use of Spin 4 and GS API 2 for recognition, use of policies or events to transcribe upload content, use of schedule to transcribe space programmatically, and use of action audio transcriber in user interfaces, Alfresco Explorer and Alfresco Share. Maintenance a list of available audio files, and assignment to custom aspect to control transcription. Well, the architecture uses four main elements: Alfresco API for development Java action for the repository, Share API and REST for development user interfaces for Share, this API 2, Java Speech API 2, provide this middleware and provide GSGF and GSML specification for grammar and dictionaries, support audio redirection and more. And Spin 4 API is the main component for the transcription and the speech recognition. Well, upon uploading an audio file Java transcription action is called, and speech recognition is made using grammar and dictionaries model, and an acoustic model afterward is captured to the properties and indexed. The content model is very simple. Is audio transcriber is transcriber aspect with two properties. One property is words. It's multiple values, and frames is the time or the frame in the video or in the sound. And there are several ways to do the transcription. Use automatic transcription automation, but upload, use events or policies, or Alfresco policies and action roles, programming transcription and interface transcription by running the Java action, UI action. Fields of application, digital asset management, trial recording of courts, movies and sound, radio and TV, and education. And to do new formats of audio, files to transcription, tonalization, grammars and acoustic model for Spanish, French, specialized dictionaries and refactoring. Thank you very much for your attention.